stops moving. It does not rotate. It does not move forward in the planetary alignment as it should.
Okay.
Now, from our viewpoint, it looks like, and because of the gravity and the way shit works in the earth, it looks like the planet is going backwards instead of forwards, hence the term retrograde. Now,
Okay.
what that has to do with what's going on today, right now, is this. Mercury is a planet that rules technology and communication.
Mm, mm.
So for 3 weeks, every 3 months, no, for 3 weeks, every 4 months, Mercury goes retrograde. And for 3 weeks, every 3 months, your communication is fucked up. You be fighting and you be saying what you said, and people interpret it some ain't got nothing to do with what you really done said out your mouth. Your phone and messed up. Your laptop is dragging. It's freezing. You can't make no phone calls. Can't receive no phone calls. Get no text. Can't receive no text. Your voicemails ain't coming but 3 days later, and you had a meeting 2 days ago. That's
Mm.
Mercury in retrograde. Your ex-boyfriends,
Well,
ex-girlfriends, ex-baby, they popping up. Talk about I love you. Come back. I ain't mean it. That's retrograde.
that's all retrograde.
All that means it is all retrograde. Essentially, what that is a time for you to have learned a lesson. So the earth is trying to like, okay, we gonna test you a little bit right here. We gonna test your patience. We gonna test
What
your
was the lesson for me not to flip things over, because that was what was about to happen. I was about to start turning things over if I couldn't get this live going. But fortunately, we have the live going, even though I have a little delay and I'm watching myself talk like a kung fu movie again, where it's like, you have no honor. But thank y'all for coming. And I see we already have people watching. Um, so I will start by letting our guests reintroduce themselves. I know that most of the people watching us should know Erica, because I've known Erica for a very long time.
Very long
The
time.
three of us went to high school, but Erica was like 3 years younger than me. So I was a senior when she came in, but she was just my little baby. And I used to call her my school daughter, and I used to just look out for her. And I'm just so proud of the woman that she is today. I used to rub her belly when her oldest daughter, was in the womb, and all of that. So thank you for joining us. She's also super passionate about motherhood, and we just have very dope conversations about different things motherhood wise between the two of us, whether it's on a comment for a post or it's privately in the messenger. And I just really wanted someone that's so passionate about motherhood, that also was a mother kind of young, to kind of talk about this generational curse in particular when it comes to adultism. So go ahead, Erica. Tell everybody a little bit more about you. I'm gonna shut up now. I'm gonna go ahead and
Thank
let you do it.
you. That was so warm and made me feel all warm and fuzzy. But hi, everybody. I probably do know a lot of people. If you live in the Bellwood, Maywood area, then I'm sure I know you. But my name is Erica Polanco Webb. It was Erica Sanders. I'm married. I have 5 kids, blended family. I like to call myself a motherhood journalist because I like to write about all things motherhood and women. Um, but I'm also a student, so I'm in school to get a doctoral degree in business, and my focus is going to be all dedicated to women in the workplace. So that's like my passion, women and mothers in the workplace. So I'm working on that. And yeah, I was a mother early. I was pregnant at 17. I had my baby at 18. And then here I am, 5 kids later. We do have a blended family. So my husband had 2 kids prior, but I went from 1 kid to 3 kids. My son, he has special needs. So he has cerebral palsy. And yeah, it's a very full house over here. So yeah.
But you're doing it with grace and style, and I appreciate watching it and just being an observation of you and managing that. And sometimes I'm like completely in awe of it, because I have two, and yeah, I don't even know or understand or can comprehend how you manage to do all of that. I've been telling Anika is my mentor. I've been telling her and other people like, I want to go for my doctorate, but with these two children, I don't know how. And then here you are saying, Sante, shut up. If I can do it, damn it, you can do it. I got 5, okay, and 2 are little.
First of all, I got 0 and I'm motherfucking tired, and that's period. Okay.
Hey, I'm not gonna say it's easy, but see, remember, I like to tell people this: first, give yourself grace, because honestly, I've always had kids in school. So I don't know it any other way per se. You know, high school, I was pregnant senior year. And then I took my daughter to college with me. So I did undergrad with a baby. And then with my master's degree, I was pregnant and had a baby. So, you know, it's always went hand in hand with me. I think it was I think it was, you know, divine, so that I can, you know, just share it with other moms and let you know, if you do want to go to school, you absolutely can. I'm not saying it's easy, but
You can
you
do
know,
it.
you can do it.
And that's facts. I've done the undergrad at the end though. So I had Naraya in my last year undergrad. And then I had Kyron right as I started my master's program. Ooh, child, yeah, ooh, yes, and then that one had colic, so that's a whole nother story. But
I'm gonna just
I'm
continue
going
to
to
pray for both of y'all because my edges are falling up. I don't need no man additional
I
pressure.
hear you, sis. I hear you. Well, Anika, thank you for coming again. And I've talked about Anika so many times. She just know I just love me some Anika. And I needed to have her be a part of this conversation because I first had my introduction of understanding adultism from Anika. So Anika, go ahead and tell our people that are watching a little bit about you again, and yeah,
Sure.
and we'll jump in this conversation after that.
All right. Well, first of all, I love you back, Sante. And yeah, I've been in social services for over 20 years. I started off working in child welfare, then moved to domestic violence, then sexual assault. And I currently am the community engagement manager at the Chicago Alliance Against Sexual Exploitation, otherwise known as CASE. And I also am one of the facilitators, contractual facilitator with the Illinois Coalition Against Sexual Assault. I do a lot of their anti-oppression trainings. And adultism is one of the forms of oppression that we have identified and we talk about regularly. So that's why Sante has asked me to be here tonight, and I hope I can lend my voice to that. I'm a wife and mother. I have a 10-year-old daughter. So, and I do recognize that adultism is something that we really need to talk about and we don't talk about often. And it's something that I think in the Black community, we kind of shy away from and don't even recognize because many of us were raised with a very authoritative type of parenting style. And if we want to challenge that, it's often, you know, people give us the side eye about challenging that and kind of doing things a different way. So I'm glad we're talking about that tonight.
Well, thank y'all both for coming here. And I'm going to start with giving a general definition of what adultism is for those of you that are not familiar with what it is. So, as defined, adultism is the belief that children are property of their often genetic adult counterparts that can be used at will. Instead of seeing kids as small humans who have their own thoughts, beliefs, personalities, and interests, and therefore are entitled to the same basic human rights as adults. So that is what adultism is defined as. And I think a lot of us may say, even still, like, well, you know, as a parent, especially if you are a parent now, where we teeter that line of understanding how to navigate adultism and not allowing our kids to disrespect us, right? And I see a lot of posts on social media when they start saying, "See, y'all trying to be y'all kids' friends," and et cetera, et cetera. when really that is not what it is. Like, you definitely are not necessarily trying to be your kid friend, but yeah, I am trying to be her friend in a sense, but not to a friend to the point where she can disrespect or undermine, or that she doesn't have rules or expectations, etc. So just to give our viewers, before we jump into this, here are some phrases about how you've dealt with adultism and may not have even known that this was part of adultism. So if you've ever heard, not now, I don't have time, or you're too young to understand, or clean your plate, I work my finger to the bone for you, not in my house, you don't. Is that the best you can do? You're just a kid. You're stupid. Shut up. This hurts me more than it hurts you. Get the hell out of here. All right, now you're going to get what's coming to you. You go right upstairs and change it to something decent. I brought you into this world and I can take you out. So that's just food for thought. So I guess we'll jump into it, and then I have some other points that I'll bring up. I see Kawana, that finger, and I already went up. She like,
Well, no. I just want to go ahead and make my disclaimer right now, because of the 4 women on this live, I am the one who is not by birth a mom. I actually recently found out through my medical records that although I am a cancer survivor, the tumor that I had was technically portions of a miscarriage.
Mm-hmm.
So that's been difficult to deal with. But the bottom line is, by virtue of not giving birth to an actual child, I am not a mom. What I am, however, is an adult who experienced extreme levels of adultism. And I mean extreme, to the point where I have teeth, because I would go back and forth with my parents like I was, their age, not really realizing that, like, hey, you have to say it to them like that. I'm like, okay, well, if I'm helping raise these kids and washing everybody's clothes and cooking everybody's food and taking care of this house, like I'm the woman in the house, how are you expecting me to react? So, ladies, I just want to give this disclaimer right now. Number one, when we do have this discussion, whether it's from the viewpoint of a mother or the viewpoint of the kid having gone through it, these are not jabs at your motherhood. It's not saying that you've done anything wrong. As a counselor, what I understand is parents and people do the best with what they were given. And sometimes parents were given generational curses of what happened to them, and they just pass it on to their kids because it's been normalized for them. As a counselor on the record, I get that. As a human being off the record, I'm kind of tired of seeing it, because it's damaging our communities a lot more than we realize. And it is so passive in nature that we just don't pay much attention to it, when we really need to give some direct attention to it. Mm-hmm. So when Sante mentions these trigger terms or key terms that you may have heard, or things you may have seen, maybe your mama said it, maybe you said it to your kid, we listen. Do not take that as we saying no jab. We are just telling y'all what it is. It's like the Younger Bands that thing. We are calling a thing a thing. That does not mean you are wrong. That does not mean you are a bad mother. That does not mean you are a bad father. What that means is just be a little more mindful moving forward about how you move with your kids. That's it.
Go ahead, Anika. Look at Anika, she don't raise the so we don't went from the hand raise in the Zoom.
Right.
I got something to add.
Yeah. So I just wanted to add that many of us are mothers, and we also did not give birth. Okay, so I adopted my daughter from birth, and I am every bit of as much a mother as anyone who did it any other kind of way. Diapers, bottles, and all. And not to mention the amount of love that I have for her. So there may be folks on the call who did not become mothers that way. So I just want to put that out there.
And it's so true. And I think that it's important to actually bring that up, because we can't put that that stipulation on motherhood is that it has to has been that you birthed that child. That's
That's
not the
true.
case at all. Caring for a kid, even if it's your niece, your,
Cause
someone, your nephew, your cousin, just being influential in a child's life to a point where you're looked at as an adult figure, or a parental figure. It doesn't necessarily mean that they have to be your birth child for that to be the case. It takes a village to raise children. So although I have Robert, I also have my brother and my sister-in-law, and the kids will tell you that that's a second pair of parents for them. That's my uncle, but that's my uncle dad, that's my auntie mom, because we love those kids as they came from our womb. So it really does not matter. So thank you for bringing that up, Anika. You are so right. And thank you also, Kawana, for that disclaimer, because this is definitely not in an attempt to belittle or say that a person's not being a good parent. This is just something that I become self-aware of over the course of being a mother, over a course of healing, over the course of education, because of my education is in psychology as well. I have a very trauma informed background, experience wise and educational wise. So when you start to understand how trauma looks like, then you start to understand where the trauma roots have started. And they don't always
mhm,
start from some traumatic one time experience, they're happening over
right.
time. Sometimes when we're very small, and we want to change that because it is manifesting in other ways in our community. And then if we're going to heal, we have to start addressing it. You wanted to say something, Erica? Go ahead.
Yes. So I was going to say, additionally, step parents, even though,
Yeah.
so even being a stepmom, it's easy for people to think, or stepdad, but it's easy for people to think that, when you are a bonus parent, when you inherit kids, that, you don't really understand because that's not your birth child. And it's like, that's not the case. You're
The
raising
point,
the kid is
right.
in your house, you're feeding them, you're loving on them, you still, that is still mothering. So even if you don't have, even if you have inherited kids that way, you are still just as much as their mother as their biological mom.
Absolutely, 100%. My father is my father. He's raised me since I was very young, and he couldn't be any more of my dad than if he was genetically attached to me. He is absolutely my dad. And even though I felt like it was important to explain to the children the dynamics of our relationship, of our family, they understand that that's by all means their papa, that's their granddad, and that's it, and that's the only granddad that they know of from me, not from, they have Robert's father as well. But yeah, I couldn't agree with that more. So this is a conversation for all parental figures, not just moms. We just have moms on this call. Adultism also happens from father to son, and we need to address that as well. But we just so happen to be a group of moms on this call. So if you can find it in yourself that you're doing some of these things as a father as well, you want to take note and change your direction as well. So I guess let's just dive into it, because it's going to be a heavy conversation. I know some people may feel some sort of way, and while I love having the fun conversations, this whole platform is about having the talks that we don't talk about, and some of those talks are things that we shy away from because they are hard conversations. So I noticed that I was contributing to adultism, first and foremost, in spankings. So hearing that one where it's like, um when you say, this hurts me more than it hurts you, or I'm spanking you because I love you. And we don't realize like what type of things that we're setting our children, especially our girls, up for. And one of the
Mhm,
things that I noticed in that was having my child see on TV. I think it was like, What's Love Got to Do with It? And he was hitting Tina, and she was like, well, he loves her. So, that's why he did it, because he loves her. And that was just like an epiphany for me. that was like, oh, no, nope, that is not the same. But how can I say that? And that's not in any way to say that, you know, you're not supposed to discipline your kids. I mind and I stay in my lane as long as it's not abuse, about how you feel that you need to discipline and parent your child. But I do think that sometimes we absolutely don't understand the undertones in doing that and what other things we're doing and how else we're affecting our kids. And it's not about giving my kids the space to run around and do whatever they want and I'm just going to let them have free reign. It's more about trying to connect with them and understand that they are capable of me talking to them. And they may not get it right in me talking to them, but I don't always have to, you know, or I shouldn't need to resort to that to get my point across. I should be able to get them to understand how to communicate first for me. Like I need to communicate as a parent why I'm upset, why you're in trouble, what's the problem, and not just go in a direction to that. So open it up to the floor for anyone else to express their views on that. Go ahead, Erica.
I love that you say that because so often when you parent, a lot of times, like you said, we parent based on kind of how we were parented. So when you become a mom, you start mimicking the things that happened to you. The way your mom, if you did XYZ wrong, you start to mimic those same types of punishments. I learned to be very intentional about them. First, we're going to talk about what you did. We're gonna go through the whole situation, just so that you understand, so that the ends justify the means. I don't want to just initiate this punishment and then you are not completely clear on why this punishment is so.
Wow.
We're going to talk about what your actions were. I'm going to even let you be involved in the process. You know, me and my husband, we say, so what do you think? If you were a parent, what would you think? If your child did what you did, how would that make you feel? And what do you think should happen about that? Because I think it's important that you do that little bit of role play because it's good for them to be able to think that way and you know, be able to think and get their mind going so that they can fully understand the ramifications of the whole situation. It makes them think twice, but also so they can feel a part of what's going on. A lot of times we shove things on our kids and we just say, this is what it is because you're the child, I'm the adult, you have to listen to me, and that's it. And we give them no voice. And I think that you have to give your kids a voice in the situation because we're quick to say, well, no parent is perfect and there's no manual. Where if that's the case, why don't you invite your kid into the conversation so that you may learn something. Actually, you may learn something from the kid. You may learn, hey, I feel like this, or I did this because this is how I was feeling. Sometimes you just need to get into their head to find out, okay, well, why did you do this? Why did you do this? Explain to me why this happened. Maybe you may tell me something that's going to be a light bulb moment for me.
Absolutely.
If I can jump in on the back of that, I also feel like a lot of parents operate from a lack of, or what they assume to be a lack of options, right? And what I mean by that is some parents are just used to the ass whooping because that was a knee-jerk reaction to their mama. And a mama's, you know, knee-jerk reaction was an ass whoop because that was her mama's knee-jerk reaction. Now, for whatever reason that knee-jerk reaction was, the bottom line is the knee-jerk reaction has been ass whooping instead of a conversation, then possibly an ass whooping, or the conversation and then possibly a punishment, you know, to redirect the behavior. That those have never been options. It's always been beat that ass because the narrative has been painted so thickly. Physical punishment or corporal punishment is the only or the most effective way. Meanwhile, there are whole statistics, there are whole researchers, and there are whole actual parents, even on this line right now, who have other options for punishing your children, other options for walking them through doing something wrong, other options for why whatever responsibility they have is put on them. Like there are other options besides whooping ass. You understand what I'm saying? But I feel like a lot of parents, because that's all they know how to do, that's the quickest thing to do, and they feel like the punt that's going to justify the means, that's what they go to first. So at what point do you not stop and think, well, okay, maybe I can try something else to get a different result? Because sometimes kids get used to ass whoopings.
They do. Absolutely. I certainly got, I remember the very last one I had, like it was yesterday. I remember the very last one and not crying and pretty much just standing there like, yep, I'm over this. Like this don't control me.
Right.
No.
And I'm not saying that they shouldn't be implemented. I'm not saying that they shouldn't
Right.
ever be used.
Right.
I know parents, including mine, where physical corporal punishment was the very last resort.
Mm-hmm.
But baby, I know some parents, and I have witnessed some parents, and I have seen some parents where their knee-jerk reaction was to muff that child, was to smack that child upside the head, or smack them in the face, or shove them, or yoke them up. Or what? Wait, why does it have to be that?
Mhm.
Like, why do you think that's the only way you can get a reaction out of this child? What's going on with you and your as a parent or as a person that you think that slapping that baby, physically harming that baby, initially is the way to go?
It goes back to the generational curses. It's a slave mentality. Whenever Black people act up, then you get hit. Whatever it is, you didn't have a say. You had no say so in the situation. If you did something that the master did not like, that resulted in you getting whipped, and then that was it. They didn't want to know why you did it. They didn't even want to know what happened. And I think that, parents, we, like you said, it's a knee-jerk reaction. It's something we immediately go to because it's quick, not thinking about, one, you have to think your kids are different. One kid may react to a whooping and may be like, you know what, I'm not doing that again. I'm not getting in trouble again. I don't want that to happen. I'm done. But then you may have another kid that be like, I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna go do what I want to do real quick. So I'm gonna get this whooping when I get home. It's gonna last about 5 minutes. She gonna holler, he gonna scream, and then by the end of the night, it's done.
It's done.
That doesn't,
And also, to piggyback off of what you said, Erica, I mean, to tie it to slavery, I mean, I'm sure many of us have heard, parents or grandparents say, if I don't get you, that, the white folks will get you, that kind of thing. And that's a carryover from slavery too, where, my whooping is better than the master's whooping, or better than the police whooping, or whatever, fill in the blank. So it's this belief that if I implement this style of punishment, then perhaps it'll, prevent you from getting a more harsh punishment from what's out here in the world.
That's true.
And it's like, you better off getting it from me instead of
Right.
getting it from someone else.
I'm
Right.
preparing you.
Program
It's under the guise of I'm preparing you. I'm preparing
That's right.
you to go out here in the world and deal with it, because the world don't love you. The world is gonna mistreat you, and you have to be able to get through it. And it's not the best way to do it long term wise.
Right.
And I think that we
like
don't look at it from that aspect.
I feel like that's an incomplete narrative. Like, you're preparing the child for the world in how, in what aspect? From demand. Like, I'm trying to understand, at what point do you think that beating their ass is preparing them for the world? Like,
I think we losing you, sis, Kawana. We can't hear you, honey.
The phone ringing.
Yeah, like we can't hear you.
Sorry, somebody was faking me. Oh, let me come on Facebook. I'm trying to track the stuff on my computer. Anyway, what I was saying was, how can you prepare your child for the real world by whooping their ass right now? Like, are you expecting them to get their ass whooped on the street if they do something wrong when they walk out the door? Like, are you expecting them to get punched in the chest by their teacher if they make a B instead of an A, the way they get punched in the chest when they get home? Like, I'm trying to understand your logic and saying, I'm preparing you for an ass whooping that you should avoid from the police, rather it be me than a judge, rather it be me than a detective. How you helping that back?
And I get very even irritated when I see that analogy made in like a meme, or it's like, when people make reference to, the reason these kids are out of control is because parents ain't whooping them. If you ask me, I think that parents are actually doing worse than what they were doing to us. I've seen parents literally talk to their kids like there's some adult off the street. Once I was in Ross and watched the lady call her, couldn't have been more than 10, your old daughter, a B. several times, and I'm an
Sunday,
escort in the store and this and that. And I was just sitting there and she caught me looking at it. I try to mind my business, but I'm just looking at the spirit of this child that's being talked to like that. And the mother not
I
seeing
saw
anything wrong with it.
I saw a little black boy in Inglewood, in a convenience store, get muffed out of the store by his mom. I forgot what he did or did not do. Right, wrong, indifferent, doesn't even matter to me at this point. But she muffed this little boy out the store so fucking hard and said out of her mouth, and I quote, "If you don't get your stupid motherfucking ass out this store, I'm gonna beat your black ass, you stupid mother." And she F-bombed and stupid F-bombed him from inside the store until they got in the car. This baby couldn't have been no more than 11.
And a lot of that, when moms do that, and that's why it's important that moms, this is why it's important. You take your time, you find a hobby, you do things that fill your spirit, your soul, whatever you need
Go to therapy.
I know it's hard. Go to therapy,
Baby.
take your bath, take your 10 minutes, because what ends up happening is moms, especially black moms, you got a lot on your shoulders. You feel like the weight of the world is on your shoulders. And so you're triggered easy. As soon as something happens that's not the way you said it should go, you are automatically triggered and it comes out on that kid. So if you unhappy with your job, you unhappy with your life, you unhappy with that man, that marriage, relationship, whatever, as soon as that kid does something, the child unfortunately has to bear that anger and all that frustration. And it's not cool because the kid is going to grow up and then the kid is going to tell you, hey, well, you stayed in that bogus relationship, you this, you that, and then they start telling you all this stuff, and now you gotta make up for lost time, you gotta apologize, you gotta go to counseling, and then you guys have to heal from the generational curse that has been ensued.
If they heal.
If they heal. But I'm gonna expound on that, Erica, even more than just that. In the Black community, what really is an issue is that often the times we are yelling at the us we see in our kids.
Yep.
We're trying to chase away, we're trying to beat it out, we're trying to change whatever the worst parts we see in ourselves. If they manifest and even short in our kids, we get triggered and we get afraid because we don't want them to make the same mistakes we made. We don't want this to be the way it go. We don't want them to feel what we felt. And in turn, what we do without realizing it is we're slowly beating the spirit out of our child because they may make the same mistakes we made.
Or if you're a single parent, you might be trying to beat that other parent out that kid. Y'all really want to talk about it? Because we could talk about it tonight.
Yeah, you see that other parent, you see them behaving like that other parent. They may look like that other parent, and then they look like the parent that really makes you upset. And that's what happened. It's your own anger. You're mad. You're not just mad at what the kid did, but you're mad at you thinking about what you did. Look what I got myself into. I'm out here. I got to do this by myself. I don't have any help. Look at your daddy. He ain't around. I wouldn't even probably have to deal with this if he wasn't around and helping. And then you go through this whole
whole damn face.
Yeah.
And you got his whole goddamn face.
Yep. And it happens
in my face.
And whose fault is that? I know that a lot of women get bent out of shape when they start to talk about when someone
let me go keep talking. I'm finna go get another glass of wine because it's about to get real deep.
God have some wine. But
because I tell these women about how they be choosing bad sometimes. So let me go ahead and
look, see, and that's where I was going with that. Exactly. Yeah. A lot of women feel some sort of way when they're told, well, why would you choose to have a child with? Why him? And why, if he told you this, did you do this anyway? Mm-hmm. And I'm a free, like, it's your choice. I had my children, even though I had Robert's in support, it was my choice of what I wanted to do. And I operated in that light when I decided to be a mom without
it's gonna be good.
Having to expect anything else. Now, did I know who I was having a child with? Absolutely. Did I know he would be the father that he is? Absolutely. But I also went into it knowing that, this was bad timing, but this is what I'm prepared to do. This is what I want to do. And so although I don't agree with letting men off the hook, or I'm not saying in any way that men should be absolved, I feel like we do need to understand that the importance of that that's not that baby's fault. Then that's
You
not
have to
that
take
baby's fault.
ownership. You have to take ownership of your responsibilities, good, bad, ugly, whatever it is. You have to take ownership of that. And I learned that early. I was pregnant at 17. I decided to keep my child. I did not want to have an abortion. And I felt that it was important for me to own up to it. Now, I will not lie. My mom actually offered to keep my child while I went to college. I personally did not want that to happen. I declined for her to do that because I felt that it was important that I took ownership over
Yeah.
what I had did. This is my responsibility. This is not on you. And actually, I don't want to, on the back end of this, I don't want to be told about how you raised my kid, how you had to step in for my mistakes. Let me own it and let me wear
Another
it like the
form of
scarlet letter. And that way, I just got to deal with it. I did it. I have to deal with it. And I took that approach because I felt that it was important that I felt that that was important for me. So going to school, going to college with a baby, that was me owning up to my responsibilities. And that's just how I took it. And
I'm sorry.
I think that that's important, that you just got to own up to it. If you slept with somebody, you got pregnant and you don't like him no more, y'all not together, he's a bum, whatever it is, don't hold that child hostage for your own mistakes and your own, mishaps. That's not the kid's fault.
I agree.
I think an important part of us understanding adultism in general, though, is to think about the ways in which, as a society, we don't really value children. We do not
at
value
all.
children.
At
Children are
all.
property of their parents. Children should be seen and not heard. All of these type of things that we say about children and how we feel about children, whether they're our own children or other people's children, just children in general. People have very little patience for children, and if we're honest, as an adult, most of us have been through that at some point in time. And, that's part of the reason why we can't wait to be grown too, because children are treated so badly in our culture.
You can't wait
I got
to
a story
have
for that.
your own freedom to think, because I think that we at some point make children feel like they can't have their own thoughts. They can't have their own feelings. They can't have their own concerns. One of the things I hate hearing, and that I do never tell my children, and I hate hearing someone else tell their children, is, what do you have to worry about? You a kid. You ain't got nothing to worry about. That's a lie. That's a lie. That baby's a human being, and believe it or not, they probably worrying and stressing about all the same stressors and concerns that you're worrying about, because they're hearing your struggles. They're understanding what's happening in the world. They're experiencing bullying and all kinds of things at school. And when we dismiss them like that, to make them so small that there's
On top of you ain't grown.
all of that. It's completely harmful, and it just needs to stop. Kawana, I'm gonna let you make your point, and I wanted to share something that I came across, and then as we hit each point, get everybody.
Oh no, that's fine. No, that's fine. I just wanted to give an example that was actually specific to this. So I remember when I was 40, right? Now, as an adult, I understand that shit happens, marriages, relationships, things fall apart. It's a whole African man wrote a book about it. In any case, things happen in relationships. Things fall apart. Sometimes families get involved in that. Now, I don't care how old you are. I don't know how young you are. If you're in earshot of somebody saying something negative or derogatory about your mama, your daddy, whoever your primary or other parent is, I don't care how grown or how young they are, you're going to have something to say. So that's what happened to me. Now, the adultism portion was this family member, and I'm not going to say who, because I don't want to blast my family like that, but this family member felt it okay to express her feelings about my mother verbally, aloud, with both myself, my brother, and the other family members there, as if my brother and I were not sitting there. Mm-hmm. I couldn't have been any more than 11. Might have been 12. And I'm a risk taker. I run the risk of you punching me in my mouth, but I bet you I'm gonna say what the fuck I gotta say, and you gonna eat every word. And that was me from a shorty. And what you not never finna do, I don't care how old I am, I don't care how old you are, is talk about my mama in front of my face like I'm not standing here. So that's what I told this family member. We not finna, ma'am, and we were in my house where I grew up. Ma'am, I'm gonna need you to stop doing that. I'm gonna need you to stop. So they turned to me and was like, well, who do you think you're talking to? I'm gonna say it one more time, and I'm not gonna tell you not now another motherfucker. I ain't gonna repeat myself. You were talking about my mother. You need to take that conversation outside, or you need to close your mouth, but you're not gonna talk about it in front of me. Well, you're not gonna talk to me like that, ma'am. I said what I said. You're not gonna talk about my mama like I'm not standing here. Because I promise you, if I talked about yours, you drag me across this living room. Watch your mouth, oh, watch it. She stood there gagged, but I bet you she stopped talking about my mama.
Right.
And I never understood why people think it's okay to drag the bad parent or the presumed bad parent or the presumed parent that ain't around in front of the kids. Like they not gonna hear that. Like that's not gonna absorb. Like that's not gonna create a narrative that whether true or not, it's still gonna create a narrative for that child.
Because they don't care about the child. They're trying to send a message back to the other parent.
Because kids are, and that's because they know you're gonna sell it. They know you're gonna go back and
That's it.
And
you're
that's
supposed to carry the message.
That's it. You're supposed to be the messenger.
Which means they didn't know me. They truly didn't know that I'm a whole fool at the mouth, and I don't care what you think I'm finna carry back. I'm gonna cuss you out first, and then I'm gonna carry the message back. Don't do that.
Well, that's why they do it. They want to give the message back, and it makes them feel powerful in the moment.
It does.
So they've gotten some passive aggressive way to get back at the other person through the kids by hurting the children in the process.
I don't know.
I
guess they thought this child wasn't gonna say nothing. I don't understand.
To bring up, and we're gonna discuss each point. And I pulled these points in my research about how I wanted this conversation to go and what points I really wanted to discuss when it comes to adultism. So the first one is children are solely existing to accessorize an adult. That means that children don't exist to make an adult feel complete, worthwhile, or fulfilled. However, sometimes adults have children to save marriages, save relationships, to please another person, to use as leverage over something else, etc., etc. This is, in fact, a form of adultism. If you're having a child because you think it's going to save your marriage, because it's going to save your relationship, or to control your relationship, that is adultism. It's oppressive to the child because now the child is a pawn in your game of chess. You're using them to manipulate, to control, to hurt someone else without the respect that who you're really hurting is this baby.
Say it a little louder for the ladies in the imaginary seats, because I don't think they heard you.
You're hurting the baby. And we need to absolutely understand the toxicity in that, and how many children are the product of me trying to control, me trying to save, me trying to this, and this. So what are your...
And I think it's unfortunate, though, that so many women get those messages from other women, from their elders. So this idea has been passed down throughout the generations that, number one, you have to have a child or else you're lesser than a woman. That's a hot mess in and of itself, because some people wouldn't otherwise be mothers and don't have no business being a mother. But somebody told them that they...
dissertation.
What's that?
I said, I'll be covering that in my dissertation.
Oh, good.
Fertility and womanhood is definitely a portion of my dissertation. Thanks.
Good. I mean, because we need to talk about that, because it's not for everybody, and it shouldn't be, and we should have the space to talk about that, number one. So the pressure to have a child and to certainly have a child to save a relationship, is ever present all the time. It's being passed down. I hope these younger generation learn something different, but certainly I think Generation X and older, something's wrong with you if you don't become a parent. Something's wrong with your marriage if you don't have a child.
Yeah, and to that point, or having a child because you want to feel love. So some people have kids because they have this yearning to feel love. You're trying to fill the void for this love that you are missing. You want to feel needed. You want to feel desired. And so what do? You have a baby because this baby's going to depend on you. And you're using that kid. And that's not how it's supposed. That should not be your rationale for having a kid, so that you can feel love. That's just not how it's supposed to go.
And some people want a baby and not a kid. So, after that, it's so cute, and then it, becomes a kid, and then you don't have the patience for that anymore.
Well, no, it's not
very different. It's very different.
I think it's also a thing of that loss of control, because eventually when you give birth to a child, you got to let that baby go, because they grow up. And what a lot of parents don't realize is once you have that kid, eventually you're gonna have to let that control that you have over that kid, even being here in the first place, go. A lot of parents don't want to do that. They want to,
especially mothers.
I'm talking about give them any and every reason enough for them not to, like parents who don't want to let their children leave out of state to go to college. Just simple stuff like that. And I'm not saying that, and hear me out, ladies and gentlemen, single parents, period. When I say this, I'm not saying that you shouldn't encourage your child from attending a college that is reasonable and within your wallet, whatever they can afford or whatever they want to go, if it's in state. But if that baby has a desire to do something other than stay in this state, why are you?
And they have a scholarship.
They have a scholarship. Why would you tell them, well, no, I would rather you stay here? For what? What are you keeping them here for? For you? You ain't nobody. You ain't that fucking special. No shade, but you're not.
And that's
that comes from mothers who have built their whole life around a child, and they have nothing else.
Yep. And that's unfair. That's unfair to the kid, because what you're doing is you're going to make this kid to start to feel responsible for you. So your kid is not going to be able to focus on school and focus on what they're trying to do, because they feel like, well, I got to go back to the house and check on mama. I got to go back to the house and check on my siblings. And you're not allowing that child to grow. I hate when I hear stories like that. It was like, no, you can't go away to school. And that's not cool. You are literally not allowing the child to grow. And you have to understand that your child don't necessarily belong to you. They really belong to the Lord. If you really want to get into it, you're just the one that's bringing them up so that they can be decent human beings. But if you're going to treat them as property, that's not the right intent.
It's not. Which brings me to another point that I personally have had feelings about for a long time. And while I think that at times we use this as a term of endearment, it really isn't. And we need to stray away from it. So children being raised as mini-me. And how that can be problematic, because you are not allowing that child to form, to decide, to understand their own identity. Because while they are your children that you birth, they are not a second chance at life for you. And they are used vicariously to do the things that you didn't do, that you didn't want to do. They're not your second time around of trying to get to where you wanted to go and fulfill the things that you wanted to fulfill, and putting that pressure on your child to do the things that you could not do is a form of adultism. And while it may come from a place of, I want more for my kid than what I have for me, it very easily gets warped when it's
absolutely
like, well, I didn't do this, and if the least you could do is, because I didn't get a chance to go to college, or I didn't get a chance,
you didn't do it.
then you have to do it. I have to know all my sacrifice and all the things I did for you were not in vain. And you gonna go because I could not. It's one thing because it was important to me to go further than my parents because I know that that's what they wanted for themselves. However, it was not necessarily that you have to do it the exact way. I want you to have a plan. I want you to be successful. I want you to know how to make it in the world alone as a but I tell my kids, and I had that space too to figure it out. Although I did have some times in there where my parents, there were certain things that I wanted to do career wise, and my parents was like, ain't no money in that. That ain't gonna help. You can't. And that is also a form of trying to live through our kids or direct them to be who we are. And that's not right. They are people in their own respect, and they need to have the space to figure out who they are. And I feel like my job as a parent is to be that safety net for them to figure that out. That go ahead, figure it out, take some risks, and then I'm here for you, as long as they're healthy risks, as long as they're beneficial risks. Go ahead, because you have to figure out who you are. I don't want you to live for me. I want you to live for you. Go ahead, Kawana, you wanted to make a point?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was just trying to make sure that you were finishing yours, and I didn't know if your other guests had something to say, but I did want to follow up behind it. Number one, your whole explanation for children being their own individual selves and not a complete replica of a parent is exactly why I hate juniors and namesakes. No shade to parents who do it. I'm not knocking that you named your child after your grandfather times 7. But let me explain something to you. Putting that type of pressure on a child is not always the healthiest thing to do, because you are having that baby live up to a standard that, one, that they might not even know of, 2, they might not be able to reach, 3, they may not be interested in reaching, and 4, your ass probably ain't gonna be able to reach and never could. But you place that wish on that baby because you fell short.
Right.
Don't do that to that kid. If you want to name that child after that parent because you just think it's a wonderful name, fine. But don't name them a junior because they think you think they're gonna be the next coming times 5. Don't put that kind of pressure on the baby. Now, to that end, one of my favorite movies in the world is a movie called A Time to Kill. And there was a scene between Matthew McConaughey and Keith Sutherland's father, who at this point had been banned from going to court, because if you've seen the movie, you know why homeboy can't go to court no more. So Matthew McConaughey was like, yo, I need you to come back in the court with me, please. Like, you my idol. Like, I've been trying to be like you. And this dude was like, what? Nah, fam, don't be like me. Be better than me. When I say this, parents, I'm going to tell y'all something. I'm going to be real honest, and I'm probably humbling a lot of y'all when I say this, but I mean this with the utmost respect. Why are you so fucking special that your baby needs to be like you? That's no tea. That's no shade. That's a real question. Why are you that bad bitch? Why are you that bad motherfucker? Why are you so special as a parent that baby has to be just like you? What if it was destined for them to be better than you? Right? So you want them to be like you. You're almost minimizing who they're supposed to be. They're probably supposed to surpass you, not just as a parent, but as a human being, because sometimes that's what your offspring does. They might be better versions of you, and that's fine. But at what point are you going to let them develop that if you so focused on making them like you? Who the fuck are you? For real, who are you? Legitimate questions we need to ask ourselves.
And I don't even think when parents are saying that, that it's even in that level of that they want their kid to be just like them. If you're a parent that grows and matures, then and you still want your kids to be just like you, that's problematic in itself. I would never want my kids to be just like me. And even
I
my
don't want my children to be nothing like one Nicole Williams. You can't be, if you even look like you want to be like your mom, I'ma knock your head between the
I'm gonna challenge that even, because there are some things that I do want of me that I want to see in my children, and that make me very relieved that I do see them in my children. So when I think about being like me, it's not so much in terms of my personality per se, my choices, my aspirations, my goals. I want them to be more like me in the sense of I love them. Both of my kids are caring individuals, and
Right.
that
Value.
they have
Yes.
values. I want them to have my values. Not even necessarily my beliefs, because although I may have certain beliefs, I feel like there's so much power in people discovering what feels natural
Works for
to
them.
them, and what and
Yeah.
finding spiritual grounding and what keeps them spiritually grounding. So I don't pressure them to believe in. Now I do have my limits on what I may partake in because they go against my own personal beliefs. However,
Right.
I want to see certain things about me and my kids, and I rejoice in seeing some of those parts of me in them. I say all the time that they have the best parts of me in them, and that makes me happy. I think where it becomes toxic in is that you have to make the choices that I didn't make. You have to make the
Right.
choices that I would make.
Live
You
out the
have to make
dreams
the
that
choices
I
that
didn't. Yeah.
exactly. You have to make the choices that I want you to make because this is what I want for you. And I'm not giving you the space to determine or understand what you want for yourself. And then
Sure.
not even making them feel as if they don't have the space or the right to have their own values, their own
Mhm.
choices, their own things that are important to their own priorities. That is not right. And I think that in our community, especially, we do that sometimes because maybe I didn't get to do this and I always wanted to do this. And for me, in my mind, this is the idea of success. So I want my kids to have it. But success looks different for everybody. My idea was
And I
success
want to be able
is
to brag to my family and
I want
friends
to be
that
able
my
to
child is doing X, Y, and Z.
bragging rights, status. Look what my
Mhm.
kid did. Look, my kid's
Right.
doing this. I almost I had to get out of, and I went through a really stressful point privately because I always felt like I had to broadcast what my kids' grades were. I stopped doing that. I stopped doing that. I don't
It's
even talk about
so funny you just say that.
Mm.
I had this conversation today with a relative of mine, and I was saying, for this is no judgment. If that's what you do, you guys, that's what you do. But I don't do it because I don't need my kids' grades and their accomplishments to validate me or validate my mothering.
Or them.
Exactly, or them. I'm going to continue to validate them. I'm going to continue to build
Right.
them up, even through that F, even through that D, even through them not getting into this college. I don't need to broadcast that my child got accepted to 15 different schools. That's their business. That's their accomplishment. I'm not going to take credit for those grades. I did seventh grade. I did freshman year. I
Right.
did senior year. That's not my
Right.
accomplishment. This is what I expect of you, and I'm proud of you, and I'm happy for you. But I don't feel like I need to share that because I do feel like that's their intellectual property. I do not feel that I should be sharing, their grades and their report cards with the world because it's theirs. It does not belong to me. I am not, I'm not going to take ownership of that, and I'm not going to
Sure.
feel like that makes me feel good. I'm proud of them. Yes, I'm extremely proud,
And
but
I think
that's
it
not
depends on
something
who
that
you
builds
share it with. Now, if you're sharing it, take a picture of it and send it to grandma and grandpa. That's different.
right.
that's
That's
different.
different.
Yes, that's different.
I
Or if
agree.
you say, I'm just so proud of my baby, she's doing really good. I'm so proud of my
Exactly.
kids. They're really doing good. But to share their intellectual property for me, I'm not going to do that. I just don't feel I just don't feel like that's ethical.
I really do feel like sometimes we use our kids for our own personal validation, and it's incorrect. That's too much pressure for us to put on children. If we can't find validation on our own within ourselves, it's unfair for a child that it may even be struggling for validation with themselves. They're trying to figure out how to validate them and believe in them. Why should they
Well,
be?
the problem is the pressure is put on us.
It's
That pressure is put on us as women.
That's
If
true.
we're gonna get real talk, like if your child doesn't behave a certain way,
your
doesn't look
mama
a
talk.
certain way, doesn't perform a certain way in school, isn't in
Your
a
mama.
certain amount of extracurricular activities, then something is wrong with you as a mother.
Yes, indeed.
So
Or
that
even if
pressure
you
is
give them,
real.
That is
or
so
if
true.
you as a
That is so
parent give them the option. Because, you know, parents, y'all don't like to give y'all kids options. Y'all gonna do what the fuck I told y'all to do. Even if you as a parent allow your children options for what they want to do, like what they want to eat, what they want to believe in, what subjects they want to take in college, even in college, you know, what majors they want to do. Like, even if you give your kids choices, some parents looking at you sideways like, oh my God, you let them decide. If I was a mom, hold on, bitch. First of all, you ain't the mama, so mind your business. First of all,
Oh
like,
yeah, I got so many dirty looks and allowing my child to cut her hair off.
cut her
But
hair. I bet.
it's hair. If that's going to make her look at herself in the mirror and feel good about her own personal reflection, why do I care? It grows back. If she decides she doesn't like it, she can grow it out and we'll have to take care of it and do whatever. But what difference does it make? She's happy with herself, but people were like, oh, you know, now she
It's
gonna
just
look like
another way to judge you.
it is. And okay, and judge on, because at the end of the day, my goal is not to appease you and your
Right.
opinions, but to raise healthy, not just functioning adults. That's my aim. My aim is to
Well,
have healthy adults.
well, that and the fact that if I check any bill in that house, I guarantee you, majority of them got Robert Tate name on them, and some of them got your name. So if they name ain't on that damn motherfucker bill in there, why you care what I'm doing with my children? As long as what I'm doing is not unethical, immoral, or causing them to do something illegal to put them in jail or put you in harm's way. Why are you worried about what I'm doing with my children?
Mm-hmm.
Because you're breaking the rules. You know, there's a set of rules that are
Like,
standards that we're expected to adhere to, you know, that's been passed down. And I'm not saying they're not bogus, because they are bogus.
Right.
But when you go against the grain, then you get that backlash. Like, what are you doing? What do you mean you're talking to your kids? What do you mean you're giving them,
right.
you know?
Right. What do you mean you giving them options? What do you mean?
Yeah, you didn't have them options. When we was growing up, we did X, Y, and Z.
Oh, they gonna eat what's but you know, they should
Yeah, our mothers didn't do that with us.
You let her cut her hair. She 13, 14. No,
Yep.
scissors couldn't cut her hair till she was 16.
You
Why
breaking
you
the
know
rules.
what I'm doing over here with my children and you ain't paying their bills?
Don't
You
worry
breaking
about
the
it.
rules.
Truth be told, I'm trying to get the husband to understand that the baby wants to color her hair. You know, whatever it takes, you know, and if it's healthy for them, that is my aim. Something Erica and I have battled with, like, and it's so funny because I know people probably be thinking like, here come Erica, here comes Sante, when we start talking about kids, especially like in the LGBTQ community. And
Oh, let's talk about
me
it.
and her have been like, you know, and I know a lot of people be tired to see us coming, but if you post that, no, I mean,
Listen, if you post it, I'm coming for you.
I'm coming for you.
And I'm doing it out of love, and I'm doing it because I just want you to just challenge the way that you're thinking.
About
Because
it.
I think that it's very important to know that, one, there's this quote that says, you know, your child's inner voice is your mom. And you got to really think about that. So whenever your child makes a decision, all decisions in life, you have to think about, they're thinking, what would my mom probably would be like. My mom probably would say. And you want that voice to be positive. You don't want that to be a negative voice, because that is hindering your kids. That's making your kids stagnant. And then guess what? Your kid will begin to resent you. And they say, I didn't even do it because of you. I'm always thinking about what you got to say. I'm always considering what you got to say. And they're not thinking about themselves. But when it comes to kids and it comes to parenting, I mean, I am going to comment. I am going to challenge it, because let's just be honest, you guys, I became a parent early. I've been a parent half my life. And so I just feel like I do know a great deal about it. I don't know everything, but I do know a great deal about it, because that's just what I do. I got 5 of them, and I got 5 of them, all different ranges and abilities and
God bless your
personalities.
ministry.
And so, you know, I just feel like, why not share what I've learned? Why not share what I've been through? Because it may help you. It's not to be a know-it-all. It's just for me to do a tell-it-all, just because I think that you should know. And you're right, Santa. I know people like, Kish, Erica, go. And you know, I don't care.
Okay. Because one of the things that I find myself challenging other parents about the most is the understanding of support. And not even just parents, but just people as a whole don't really understand what support means. Everybody thinks that support is this one monotone, it's just this one thing. And it's only one way to provide support because that is your idea of support. But when you do experience some things and you learn from trial and error, and really when you start to heal, like going through my healing process, having my own child have her own breakdown and realizing and then allowing her to speak, like really speak transparently without I give my kids whenever they need it, they have bubble time. That means that you come to me like Mama Bubble. When you in the bubble, you can say whatever it is that you need to say without repercussion, without judgment, without interruption, without lack of understanding. I'm here to hear what it is. Now, the system means that you can't
I
abuse
love
the
that.
bubble. You can't abuse it now. You can't be like, I done did some stuff I knew I ain't supposed to do. I made the choice and now bubble, I want to tell you
Bubble,
I did
right.
wrong.
Right,
But
right, right.
it's an opportunity for them to be completely honest with me. And I have learned, I have heard some very harsh and humbling things. But what it did was it awoke in me to understand that I needed to make some changes because if I did not, how is this going to affect my children when I send them out into the world to deal with other people? Because we all know that hurt people, right? So I allowed them to tell me, and a lot of people don't understand it. Just the other day, my teenager came in and said, "You know, I really need to tell you something that's been on my mind." And I said, "Okay," and I let her get it out. Now, did she raise her voice at one point? She did. Her inflection raised a bit because she was passionate about what she said. But I didn't feel disrespected. I felt like it was a place of emotion. I let her have that moment. And then it gave me the opportunity to explain to her my perspective. Well, this is why I said what I said. This is why I reacted the way I reacted. But thank you for telling me how you felt because now I need to be more mindful that maybe I need to explain that a little bit more instead of just having that reaction. That I need to be more understanding about where you're coming from, and that's a trigger for you. And I will do better in that. We need to be able to do that. We need to be able to apologize when we mess up
Say,
because
I'm sorry. Yes.
sorry. I tell my kids all the time, Mama, sorry. I'm sorry, baby. I
Right.
got this one wrong. My
That's right.
bad. Bad
But
mommy,
we are
shame on
human
me.
too. We
Baby,
are
Right.
human
if
too.
I could get, if I could get, well, I don't necessarily need my mom to apologize because I know she's capable of doing so. But my daddy, that goddamn stubborn ass Leo. I mean, and let's be fair, I adore my father. Like you can't just like you can't say nothing wrong about Miss Jenkins in front of Benita Betrayal. You better not now say not a damn motherfucking thing wrong about my daddy, especially because he raised me as a single father until I was 15. Don't try it, I'll knock your teeth out. Um, but he was the foundation of a lot of the adultism that I experienced. That's just, the reality of my life. And there was a time when I was in grad school and he and I had a conversation, and it was a really, really intense conversation. And I made mention to him that when I was a child, one of our elders told me to my face that I was going to grow up to be as stupid as my mother.
Mm.
All right.
Yep, I think she froze on us. We're gonna give her a
Oh,
second to come
Susan.
back.
But you know what? While it's frozen, I know she'll probably come back. I do want to piggyback off something that Sante mentioned about the bubble. You guys make yourself available to your kids. I don't care if it's once a week where you really make yourself authentically available. Make yourself available to your kids. Okay, she came back.
You back.
Oh yeah, I'm here. Sorry.
Make yourself available to your kid, and also understand when they raise their voice, if it's raising their voice to be disrespectful or it's raising their voice out of passion. We're quick to say, don't you raise your voice. And it's like, First of
But
all,
that's not what I'm doing.
why does that make you? Why is that triggering you? First of all, you need to be able to decipher from your child when they're doing it out of passion and when they're doing it out of disrespect.
A lot of parents don't know their kids, like genuinely don't know their kids, don't know their emotions enough. They're not in tune enough with who they are. And it goes back to this whole adultism thing of just seeing kids as property and seeing them as just existing, and that's it, and nothing else.
And just you kids just ain't supposed to do it.
They
So
ain't
we
just-
come from an age where our parents taught us that your voice doesn't raise above a certain octave, period, in the discussion. And so if you pass that on, that's what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
We have to learn something different and do something different.
So what ended up happening with me was, I'm sorry, I was trying to turn on my Wi-Fi. I thought y'all couldn't hear me. I was sharing with my father when I was in grad school that one of our elders, in the midst of me doing something wrong, I think I broke a crib, an antique crib or something like that in the house. And this elder basically told me that I'll grow up to be as stupid as my mom. Now, I was like 9 or 10 when she told me this, and I'm 37 next, and it doesn't stick with me much anymore, but I still remember how that made me feel. And what I told my dad was, so it's okay for her to say whatever the fuck she want to say to me, like, that's cool. But when I get that energy back, that's a problem. And instead of my father addressing the fact that this elder said something not only negative about my mother, but projected that onto me, instead of addressing that, it was immediately, well, they're an elder and they help raise you so they can say whatever they want to say. Oh, who the fuck you think you talking to, bruh? Now, let's be clear, and I know it's parents on this line, ain't no way I could have been able to say that to my father. As an adult, whatever, how it don't even matter. But when I tell y'all, my knee-jerk reaction was to talk to him like he was a nigga on the street. Who the fuck do you think you talking to? So fuck your child. Fuck her feelings. That elder's feelings mean more than mine. Is that what you're telling me? This elder disrespected the fuck out of not just my mother, whether she was right, wrong, or different. She disrespected the fuck out of my mother, and she disrespected the fuck out of me to my face as a child. And you had nothing to say? Really? Bet.
Elders do get a lot of leeway to persistently like perpetuate adultism, and it's
unconditionally, yes,
and it's supposed to just be expected.
You're just supposed to take it, forever, really.
And I'm sorry, I don't agree with that, and I can respectfully put you in your place even as an elder, and that's something that I have done because it's very toxic for us, and that's what I call part of my self-care. It's not allowing you or making you believe that just because you're older than me that you can demean me, that you can
cut you the fuck
or
out.
my children,
or my children.
I had to say goodbye to an aunt because of that.
And that is how abuse finesses its way into the equation with kids, because we give other adults the permission to talk to our kids in a certain way.
That's right.
That's how we end up with a situation where the uncle did something, and because you need to listen to him when he say that. When he say go to that room, you go to that room, and you got to remember how a kid is interpreting this. A kid is interpreting this very literal. So he say go to the room, I'm going to the room because that's what I'm doing.
I got to do everything an adult says, right?
Or when he tell you that this is our secret, be quiet, don't tell nobody. That if you do that, you're disrespecting this adult.
That's
and
right.
It much is how we have and we see sexual abuse continuously happening in Black families, where it's happening over and over again because they're using that power that you entrusted in them to victimize and abuse your child. So you have to allow your kids to have that space. You have to allow your kids to be able to come and talk to you. And they're not going to talk to you if they don't feel that you respect them or that you're going to understand, or you're not going to even allow them to have the space to have feelings. Why would
it starts so early.
Yes. On top of that, those abusers If you don't have a good relationship with your child, guess who will?
That
Those
abuser.
those predators, they know. They'll be the one that's so sweet. Oh, you can come talk to me. I know your mama tripping. Come talk to me. And they will use that every time.
It's part
See,
of
that's why I told y'all I'm surprised I had teeth as a child, because let me tell y'all something. There was only so many times that an adult was going to say a certain thing to or around me before I addressed it directly. Who the fuck? What? I'm sorry. What?
Right.
Because I feel like this. If you're gonna address it around me, you wanted me to hear it. So you wanted to react, and whether you wanted it now, however the reaction comes, you wanted a reaction out of this. So I'm gonna give you what the fuck you want. Now, whether I was in line or out of line don't matter. The bottom line is you as an adult was out of line because you was running your fucking mouth in front of me as a kid and thought I wasn't gonna say nothing. See, nah, I was never that kid. I was a kid that you had fucked up all the time and let you know real quick. You're not gonna talk to me any kind of way. You're not gonna talk about my mama just because she's not the predominant parent. And I don't give a fuck what my daddy said. I said I ain't going, and that's it. Period.
This reminds
Because
me.
I never understood. I never understood the concept of being a kid and not being able to express yourself or feeling something and being shut down because that's not what the adult wanted. I don't give a fuck about what you want to hear. This is how I feel. You need to hear this, because if you don't hear it, the teacher gonna call you from school because I'm gonna act it the fuck out in some capacity. Somebody gonna get their ass beat. I'm gonna be acting up in a class. I'm not gonna be doing no homework. My behavior's gonna change.
And you know what? That reminds me of 2 points. One, my 4-year-old, she got into a habit like, "Mommy, can I tell you something?" And I had to stop her. I said, "Look, you can always tell me something. Don't ask me if you can tell me something. Don't do that. I'm not a stranger. I'm your mom. So just say, 'Mommy, I'm going to tell you something.' But don't continuously ask me, 'Can I tell you something?'" So whenever she does it, I say, "What do I always tell you?" And she said, "You tell me I can always tell you something." I said, "Absolutely." So don't have your child feeling like they have to ask permission to have tough conversations with you or to share with you what's on their mind. Two, I will never forget how a relative wanted my daughter to come over to play with another kid, and my daughter said she didn't want to go. And
Oh,
I said, "Well, she don't have to go."
Right.
And that completely messed them up. And they were mad at me because they felt,
Mhm.
how can, just because she doesn't want to go? And I say, "Look, I'm not going to pressure her into going somewhere um just because you guys want her to go.
Right.
Maybe there's a reason why she don't want to go. And I don't want to
hello.
conscience that I forced her into a situation where she didn't feel comfortable. Now, that's not to say that she didn't feel comfortable. She probably authentically just did not want to go. However,
And
it
that's
doesn't
okay.
matter. It doesn't matter. If she
Doesn't
said
matter.
that she did not want to go and participate in that, I'm going to respect that. And I'm going to respect that because I just think that it should just be respected. Sometimes
That
we
goes for hugging and kissing
I
relatives
was
too.
just gonna back
Baby.
up. I was listening, and I want to really address that, and then I'm gonna move to the next point really quickly because this is something that I come across in my workday when I'm doing my prevention education presentations for younger kids, and we start talking about unsafe touch, safe touch, and how safe touches can even be unsafe touches if a person does not feel comfortable. This includes hugging. And then we talk about consent. So I'm teaching the kids about if it's a safe touch, even if it's a hug, a high five, a pat on the back, that person should be asking you how you feel about it before they do it. And I always get at least one child that says, because we also used to show this video about consent for kids. And you can look this up on YouTube for parents that want to have these conversations at home with their kids. I really strongly recommend that you do because a lot of kids are not getting that Aaron's Law presentations in their school still. And you need to arm your kids on how to keep their bodies safe. So you can look up a video. It's a 2-minute video called Consent for Kids. It's a very cute, adorable little video on there, and have your children watch it to get them introduced to consent. But what always comes up is a kid say, "I always have to give someone a hug when I'm leaving, and I don't like to do that." or this particular relative kisses me and I don't like that. So I always have conversations with these babies about how to handle that with their parents. And they always say that if I do that, my mom's going to be upset. If I say that, I might get in trouble. And you don't recognize what you're doing to that child,
Mm-hmm.
how you're aiding to a grooming process situation when
That's
happening,
right.
when you're forcing them to be affectionate with someone that they don't feel comfortable with. You want to make sure
Right.
that you let them know that you have, if you don't want to give a hug, you don't have to give a hug. I don't make
That's
them
right.
give hugs to anybody. Like if you don't want to
Baby.
hug, you don't have to hug. You don't have to go over there. You can just say bye if you want. You can give a fist bump if you feel comfortable,
Peace
you know, but
sign,
you don't
right.
have to peace sign. Thank you for having me and be courteous. But no, you don't have to be affectionate if
And
you.
men, you tell your spouses, your cousin, your uncle, whoever. Men, when that kid is shorter than you, please bend down.
Yeah,
Don't
Mm-hmm.
have that kid that don't have
Hug
that
your
child
waist.
hug around your waist. Please bend down and get to their level and hug them. Don't
absolutely.
That's
do
right.
that. It's very inappropriate, and it can make the kid feel uncomfortable without them even being able to really verbalize how that's making them feel.
Being able
Absolutely.
to articulate it. I couldn't agree more. I'm gonna
Yeah,
hit it.
I used to tell my relatives, if you're upset because a 4-year-old won't give you a hug,
What's wrong
then
with
What does
you?
that say
you
about
need to
you?
go get some help.
Mm-hmm.
You need to go get some help. If that's ruined your day because a 4-year-old didn't want to hug you right now,
Which we
go
all
get some
know
help
that
for
that
yourself.
4-year-olds can just be real cutthroat and like just they move
Man,
shady
listen,
just like a 40-year-old. So
my
Yeah,
niece is
all right. Go
three.
get some help if that's, has
if
broken
I,
you down so much.
yeah, I
My
know
niece is
that's the
3
truth.
years old, and we did something at my dad's house like a few months back when during the we gonna put summer in quotes because I don't know what the fuck that was between June and September this summer. And I got a hug from my nephew who's like a year. He gave little Titi a hug on her leg. And I turned to my niece and I said, Tink, you don't want it, Tinky, can you get Titi a hug? This stuff, she talking about something. No, and ran off. Now, to be fair, I felt the way I was like, this little girl, but then I said, you know what? Maybe she tired of TT hugging on her today.
You
Maybe
tired.
she's busy. Maybe she was occupied.
Kids
But
finicky. They
ultimately,
may
I
not
had to
like the way
respect her.
you hug.
They may not like the way you hug.
Kids finicky. They may not
Right,
like you. May put too much
whatever
pressure.
the reason was, she said
Yeah.
no. So I had to, okay,
That's
well,
right.
Had to
that's
respect it. She did not give her consent, damn it. Okay.
and
So
I,
you
That's
and I
right.
okay, TT don't I love you. I see you air kisses.
So we're gonna move on to the next point, so that I'm not keeping y'all because we tend to have these long conversations, but they just be so good. They have so much substance that if I can share that with everybody, I let it go on for as long as I can before I get good and tired because I'm approaching that age now where I have a bedtime somewhat candle. So I can't be staying up all
Mhm.
hours of the evening.
Me too.
But another point that I found that was really interesting was thinking your children owe you because you provided them with basic life necessities or just the basics, period. And yeah, no, they
Oh, my
don't.
mama shit. Or my
They
daddy.
don't. They don't owe
Oh,
you
you shit. Because I asked
nothing.
you to come here. First of all, I did not ask you. You could have aborted me. You could have swallowed me. You could have spit me out. You could have wiped me out. I didn't ask neither one of you motherfuckers to bring me here full term or get married before I got here. You had choices. Okay? You chose to exercise to bring me here through that good puss. Your choice. Your responsibility. I don't owe you shit.
And if parents,
Nothing.
your
Sorry.
kids don't owe you anything. And I have this conversation with my son all the time where he's 10, but he's got his whole life mapped out already at 10. He's gonna be an engineer when he gets older. He's gonna have multiple businesses as well that he's going to be running. So he's gonna be quite well off. And he's just gonna buy and do everything that he ever wanted to do for me as an adult. And I tell him no every single time. I said, if you want to do something nice for your mama here and there, that's fine, but don't aspire to grow up to take care of me. Aspire to grow up to take care of your family. I want you to grow up to be a good husband to a wife, a good father to your children. Like, you just make some time for mama and she'll be happy. You allow me to have time with my grandchildren, I'll be happy. But don't aspire to grow up because you feel like you have to repay me for everything, because that's his thing. Well, I'm gonna repay you because you and daddy, y'all spend so much money, but that's because I'm your mother and I want to spend whatever
Supposed
extra
to.
whatever extra things I do. That's because I'm your mother. I decided to be your mom. So I should be making sure you have your needs met. But no,
And then the funny thing is, people will treat their kids like garbage and still expect for them to take care of them when they get old. And like, if that was your plan, maybe you should have treated them kids a little better.
You a whole crackhead and abandoned, got them kids with abandonment issues at the wazoo and then mad because they don't want to pay for you to go to rehab. Go if you don't go sit out.
And you know, as adults, you have to get into the habit of doing things authentically, doing things because you want to do it, you desire to do it. And once you get to that place, you won't feel that your kids owe you anything, because everything that you have been doing up until they are able to do things on their own, you have done it out of love. You have done it because
right.
you desire to do it. It's authentic. It's just you just loving on them. If you're going to take the mindset of I'm buying you these J's and I'm doing all this, because when you make it to the pros, I'm expecting you, then you doing it. It's not morally
out of contract, right?
Authentic at all. And it's not what you should be putting that pressure on your children that they have to feel obligated now to pay you back. It wasn't a loan. You didn't give your kids a loan. You didn't, take care of them what they expect. Like, you don't give your kid a bill once they move out. Like, oh, let me pack your stuff. Here's your bill. As if they was renting or staying,
they couldn't afford it.
They couldn't afford it, right?
You couldn't.
It's gonna have time on there. I don't know how to put time in a monetary value.
Right.
But
you could have swallowed, you could have aborted, you could have wiped them off. You could have practiced the rhythm method. You could have pulled out, hey, bruh, it's too many other options. Stop treating these children like they owe you something because you decided to let this nigga nut in you. And God to create that into a kid. Stop playing with me.
As a reminder, some of us didn't become mothers that way.
Facts. Facts, Anika.
Okay, so let me adjust that. Stop thinking your children owe you something because they say because you saved them from their mama, or you took them in because of whatever parent was at. Stop thinking them children. Stop thinking
you just don't owe kids anything. Your kids don't owe you anything.
Honestly, that's a great point.
Because you chose to.
That's honestly a great point. That's a great point. Don't go into this place where you like, I saved you from this. That's not the right approach, and that's not even fair, because how do you want that kid to justify that? What do you want them to do with that? It's not their fault that you saved them. I'm hoping that you saved them because it was something authentically that you wanted to do. Don't make them responsible for that because they're not.
Because I can guarantee you, if that child was given to you or them children was given to you, you are the best option. You weren't the only option. So stop treating these children like they owe you something because you did them a favor. No, but you made a choice. And it's fine that you made it, but you live in that. Don't make them children live up to that because they have nothing to do with them. They didn't ask you for shit.
That's right.
And I feel honestly just as passionate and strong about that when it comes to step parenting. I'm really passionate about step parenting because I feel like so many people approach it as optional. It's like those his kids, those her kids. And it's such the wrong approach, because it will come back up. It will manifest in your marriage, and it may not manifest today. It may not manifest in the next 10 years, but at some point it will manifest, and it'll come back around, because what you have done is you've isolated these children and made these children feel like they were just something optional, another book on the shelf. You take it off if you want to. When you're done with it, you put it back on, and that's not cool. At the end of the day, they're still kids. And just like you just said, Kawana, this was your choice. You knew that this person had children, and you know that these children come with this person.
That's
That's
it.
right.
And I want to challenge and piggyback off that. I know this ain't quite on the adultism spectrum. However, it burns me up. And since we're talking about step parenting and what comes with that person when you chose to be in a relationship, hearing someone say, if you are involved with someone and you don't want them to do things for their children that they had prior to getting with you, but have the expectation that they're going to be in house, taking care of, raising, doing for your children that you brought into, and then try and cut them off from their kids, it's not right.
I don't get it.
I don't get it.
I don't understand how you can want someone to take care of the kids you have together or the kid that's in the household, but then completely abandon the other kid, not take the other kid on the vacation. I personally, like in my mind, it doesn't make sense to me how that other kid is not involved in the family business. Doesn't make sense to me. I don't understand why you guys go to Disney and then the other kids don't go. That doesn't make sense to me. I don't think that's just not, it's just
That's
not.
the parents having problems with the other parents and using the kids to hurt them.
Yep.
Baby, I don't listen. Ooh, if I could, I could write a whole motherfucking book on parents using the kids to piss the other parent off, because I promise you I could snatch my daddy mustache out one motherfucking whisker by one goddamn whisker for every time he did some shit to be petty towards my mama. And I would just be looking at her like, bro, do you really give a fuck that me and my brother's feelings is hurt at all by any of this? Does any of it ever matter? And again, I love my father now. But I really one day when I got balls and I got time and I'm probably drunk and high enough to contain myself and not be super emotional about it. Like I would really have to sit down and talk to him like, yo, what was the, I understand some of the frustration, but when I was a kid, what was going through your mind when you would make some of the decisions that you made when it came to my mom's that you didn't give not a fuck about how that affected how me and my brother felt? Why didn't that matter? Why did that never matter? Like, why was you more worried about getting back at her because you was pissed at her than you were worried about how what you was doing was gonna make me and my brother feel?
And I like that you bring that up because as you guys can see, Kawana, how old are you? 30?
I'm gonna be 38 in February.
38. And you can see how
for the record, I'm sorry, Erica, but for the record, I just want everyone to understand that Kawana is 38. I myself am 25. I just 25. Okay?
I drank half a bottle of wine. I'm fooling with you tonight, curly head McGurk.
but you can see how that impacts the child. It carries on well into adulthood where you think, well, you grown now, that shouldn't matter. No, that's not true.
No, it matters. It has always, and my thing is, it's not that I'm not sitting up losing sleep over it anymore. But baby, if you bring the subject up, I'll be wanting to knock mother.
It bring you back to that place.
It brings you back to that place.
And again, I really just sometimes when I'm talking, I want the parents to hear their child when they hear me. You understand? Because I want y'all to understand that, again, I'm not knocking how parents raise their kids, but as the one who doesn't have a child on the line, but has experienced a lot of shit that we've discussed as the kid, I'm telling y'all what I know. There are just a lot of things that parents lack in mindfulness when it comes to how they handle their children, how they raise their children, how they have their children raising their children, and these children, they did nothing but be number 3 of 17 that you chose to have. Like how you put your expectations on your children, how you play the other parent, how you play your children against the other parent because you just feel like being petty, or you still bitter, or you still mad because this parent did whatever. And this ain't just my shit. This is a lot. I'm a counselor. I done seen these. To my patients that I'm seeing. This is me that I'm seeing. This is family member shit that I'm seeing. And a lot of parents don't want to look in the mirror and go, yo, I might need to have a conversation with my baby and see how they feel about it. And the parents don't think about that. It's just, let me do what I feel is best for the child. At what point were you going to ask that kid?
Right.
Were you going to have a conversation?
They're going to go to therapy. I mean, there's parents who need to go to therapy. That's it.
Point blank period.
Conversation, and they should be a part. They should be a part of their upbringing. Everything shouldn't be a dictatorship. It shouldn't have to be everything how you want it to be. They should be involved in it, because what do we say? We're not perfect parents. There is no rule book. So if that's the case, if that truly is the case, then you should include them. You should include them in on the conversation. What do you think I should do about you? I don't know what to do about you right now. So you know what? We're at a place where we need to include you in on what we need to do about the things that you've been doing, because we don't know. Can you help us? Give us some insight. We need help. Help us.
And we have to decide, are we raising them to be adults, or are we raising them to be slaves?
Yeah.
Right.
Then you can't get mad when that's their mentality going into the world. They don't have a voice. They don't know how to stand up for themselves. They don't know how to think for themselves. They don't know how to march to the beat of their own drums. You have to allow them space to do that in your protection, not in your control, but in your protection, because there is a difference. You're not controlling them, but you're protecting them from everyone else that may want to kill that spirit in them, that may want to diminish that spirit in them. So you allow them to have that space. I tell both my babies all the time, it's not too much that you can come in here and tell me that you want to do that I won't support you in. That's not too much. I'm going to figure out how to support you. If that means that I don't know, or I'm struggling with something, well, I'm going to go read a book. I'm going to go get some help. I'm going to go consult. I'm going to do whatever I need to. Look, I see your collection. I see.
Okay, I'm Queen. If I don't know the answer, I ain't never did it. I ain't never experienced it. I'm going to go get a book. I'm that friend. If you come to me and you got something going on and I'm like, I don't got no advice, I'm be like, girl, you know what? There's this book. There's this book. Because you got to get comfortable. And some people like, I don't want to read a self-helpy book. But here's the thing. Nobody's perfect. We all just trying to do the best that we can. Sometimes you do need to tune into a little book to give you some perspective. It doesn't mean that you got to follow the book, but it just gives you some things to think about. Just
we're on the construction.
You need a little bit of extra support, and there's nothing wrong with that. And you got to get comfortable with saying, you know what, I don't know what to do.
I also feel like parents, stop putting so much responsibility on your children and then get mad when your children get buck at you like they grown. That's what happens when you give children grown folk responsibilities. So if you have 5 children and your oldest is 17 and that 17-year-old is always babysitting all of your kids because you at job number 4 or you on date number 3 or you just feel like getting away, you can't be mad when that 17-year-old say, hey man, I ain't finna do none of this shit. You need to find a babysitter. I ain't gonna be able to do it.
And you have to think about what that's going to do to them when they're an adult. You have to understand that it's going to make them not want to, I don't want to have kids. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that, because you know what? I feel like I've
been doing this since I was 13. I'm tired already.
I'm not saying themselves as an adult, and you don't want them
and I'm not saying never give a child a responsibility. I'm not saying never teach them how to wash clothes, never wash dishes, never learn how to cook, never learn how to drive
siblings. Nobody's saying
never ever babysit your siblings. I'm not ever saying that. But what I am saying is if you are using your children as a human factory, where all you doing is going home and all you got to do is go to work and come home because you know that 13-year-old got it covered. No, baby, that 13-year-old shouldn't have shit covered but their ass and they homework. Do you hear me?
Have a conversation about it. Have a conversation.
Right. Don't just put it on them. Don't just put it on them.
You know what I'm saying? When I'm having a rough day or I feel like I got a lot going on, I might say, Jayla, I'm going to need you to really help me out with these kids. I'm coming to you because I need help. I'm not coming out. You need to watch these kids because I got to do. I'm not coming at you like that.
There's something there. You're not making it her obligation.
Exactly.
Yes.
You're asking for her assistance. You're asking for her. But you're not making her.
All I'm saying.
Absolutely. I may say, hey, Lily, I need a 10-minute break. I need a break. I need to get my mental together. Can y'all please hold down?
And that's all I'm saying. I'm not saying
permission. And you guys got to know that ain't nobody saying that that you're not saying, hey, I need you to watch the kids for a second. But don't make it a repetitive thing. Don't make it like something that is there.
Right. She's the parent, right?
Like she's the parent, which happens a whole lot. And I get it because, I'm gonna be honest, growing up, before my mom married my father, it was the three of us. So, you know, me and my brother are 4 years apart, and we had to do and be very independent for a lot of things because at first my mom was a single parent. However, I still had a time to be kids. We still had moments to be a child. So it was like, hey, mama, know I'm asking for y'all to have to do a lot, but I need y'all to do this, and this so that I can, blah, blah, blah. But then when she wasn't at work, when she wasn't braiding hair, when she wasn't trying to make things, ends meet, I got to go and ride my big wheel down the street to the candy house with my dollar, to buy whatever I wanted to. I got to eat that ice cream on the stoop. I got to go out and play with my friends and
Yeah.
learn to have social skills. And that's super important that if you need to ask for help from your kids, like that's fine. But you do absolutely need to allow them that space to be a child because that's what they should be doing.
They shouldn't have to take on adult responsibilities and not be able to do the child things that they want to do. It shouldn't be like, well, I can't go to the movies because I gotta make sure I cook
Watch
them.
my brother slash
No,
son.
you gotta leverage
Baby.
that, you know. Why-
So I know it's getting to the end of the night, and I just want to pose a quick question to the audience out there. I want you guys to do something for me, and then I want each of us to have a closing thought before we head out. And thank you guys so much for joining us. So I'm going to call to our listeners that if you can change, or if you've noticed in this conversation that you are doing something in adultism when it comes to your kids, I want you to release that right now. I want you to release that in the chat and say, I will do better by this. And put it in our chat, let it go, and start to work on that and allowing your kids to be human, allowing your kids to be transparent, allow yourselves to build a rapport between the two of you because they need that. They need to know that they can trust their mama. So you don't assume that just because you are their parent that they automatically are obligated to trust you. They're not. We have to earn their trust as well. So I want you to release that in the chat right now, and then I would like for you ladies on the call to um, close with your closing thoughts. So I'll start with Erica. Go ahead, Erica. What's your closing thought for the night?
My closing thought is that I'm not perfect. And I like to I want to put that out there. I'm not super mom. I'm not perfect. I am not without flaw. And I want to share that because it's easy for that imagery to be perceived when you see me, when you think of me. And it's important that I share that because no mom is perfect. No one is perfect. When I share experiences and I share advice, it is strictly from a place of love and experience. It's because I know that I have fallen short in some of these areas, and these are some areas where I have corrected my behavior. These are some areas where I may have experienced it myself. And, I know better. And when you know better, you do better. And when you do better, you should share that. You shouldn't just keep it to yourself. And so I just want people to know that, like Sante said, when y'all see us coming for y'all, if it's about parenting or anything, it's not because we feel like we know it all and we are these perfect parents, but it's to give you some extra insight. It's to give you another perspective and to make you think, just think about what you're doing. And in light of COVID-19 and how difficult, it is to do the e-learning and everything, give yourself some grace, and just really think about some of these things because I have seen some adultism things, being posted on social media as it pertains to having to, teach your kids at home and you're tired of it and, all these things. And I get exhaustion and all these things, but just be mindful that these are your kids. These are not the teacher's kids. And so you just have to just keep that in mind that it's not going to be easy. You're not perfect. No one is expecting you to be the teacher, but just know that this is just a time where everybody needs support. Everyone needs help. And, nobody perfect.
Yeah, thank you. You are so right. We are not perfect. We have to be able to tell ourselves that every day, and trying to to think that, you know, we are, and we're not coming to you from that perspective either, but just in a learning moment, like, hey, I recognize that I did this, and when I corrected my behavior, this was the result, and it was, you know, for the best benefit, and maybe you should try it. But not that I'm better than you, girl. You ain't got your stuff together. You need me to come in here and save everybody.
Not at
That
all.
is not it. That is not what it is. But thank you, Erica, for coming. Thank you for that closing thought. Anika, your closing thought.
My closing thought would be to, I think we all need to challenge ourselves to shift the culture a little bit. And we start with our own family and friend circle. So when we hear or witness adultism among our circles, let's challenge it, you know, and we're going to ruffle some feathers sometimes, you know, we're going to, you know, upset Big Mama and Auntie May and all them a little bit, but let's do that. You know, let's you know, begin to challenge people to think about things from a different perspective and to learn something new,
Right.
and to learn by our example, how we treat our children, how we treat our nieces and nephews and all the other kids in the family, and just set a different kind of tone. And I think once we all begin to do that, you know, it goes out into the world. We're sending a different kind of message out here that there is a different way to be. So I would challenge everybody to do that.
I couldn't agree more with that. Absolutely. Yes, we got to start holding each other accountable. We have to protect our babies from those people that don't want to hold themselves accountable, because it sticks with them a very long time. And some of them never heal from some of their experiences with others. And if you're going to be that parent that you say you want to be, part of that is protection. And you want to protect those babies. Thank you so much, Anika, for that. You know, I love your guts. So thank you so much for joining.
I love
And
you
Kawana,
back.
I know you do. I know you do. And for Kawana, your closing thoughts from a kid's perspective, especially, hit us with it.
Um, Again, I don't want anybody on the line to feel like I'm pointing fingers because of my own stuff and my own triggers that I have. Some I've dealt with, a lot of them I haven't. That's just me being transparent. That's why I'm in therapy every other week. So when I share my experiences, or when I share experiences that I've witnessed, shared experiences that I've seen, that I've observed, this is not me taking direct shots at anybody, but I just really speak from the child's perspective because I don't have any other perspective to speak from. You know, there are 3 women on this line who can speak from both perspectives because they have been perhaps in situations where they've experienced adultism, but they can also speak from the paradigm of being mothers, knowing what that looks like and knowing what they don't want to execute in that vein. I had the singular thought of being the kid who was affected by it in several very complex ways. So what I will leave the conversation with is this. Number one, when you have children, that is your choice and your choice alone. So when you have children, let them cheer and be cheering. Let them play outside. Let them dusty their clothes up. Let them draw on the wall because that's what they do. Because the big white walls, like big white paper. You know what I mean? Like, let cheering be cheering. You understand what I'm saying? Let them feel like they matter. Don't make them feel like they just the obligation in the house that you just don't happen to give birth to because you don't believe in abortion. Had you gotten an abortion, your mama would have killed you, and that nigga begged you to keep you from getting an abortion. Don't treat your children like that. Mm-hmm. These are whole human beings who, in your higher upper level of thinking, you chose to bring into this world. So when you choose to bring children into this world, you are responsible for their upbringing. You are responsible for their psychosocial and emotional and spiritual well-being. Understand that before you put certain standards on them. Understand that before you put them in a position where they don't feel comfortable enough to come to you as their mom or their father. Understand that when you bring a child into this world, they are a child and they are your child until they are 18. And even then, you're just a steward. That is a whole individual living their whole life separate from you. Ain't got nothing to do with you other than what you put off in them.
I call it a cabinet member. You become a cabinet member when those kids when those kids get older, and you need to understand that you are just that. Just like the president got a cabinet of people that kind of advise them, that's what you become, a cabinet member. You are not a dictator. You are not running the show.
Facts.
And that's no shade. And I had to actually humble myself in that way because number one, y'all gotta understand, my mom didn't get full custody of me until I was 15. By that time, it was so much adultism that had been put on me by my father by default that, Ma, you can't tell me nothing. But even with her trying, I was 15 in high school. Even if she had raised me till I was 15, Ma, I'm gonna be 18. It's really not much you can tell me. You got to let me go. You gotta give me some space. You gotta allow me. You gotta just let me be. I'm not saying let them be free and out here in the world, but there are certain things that parents put on children that when children don't fulfill that, the children feel that. And they feel like they obligated to you to fulfill that. Don't put that on your kids, man. Let your children be children, however that looks for you. Don't put no responsibilities on them that you didn't want when you was a child. Don't put no responsibilities on them that you wouldn't feel comfortable with them exercising if they are not old enough to drink or buy a cigarette. Don't put that responsibility on them. Let them children be children. And whatever happened between you and that baby daddy or that baby mama, keep it out their fucking face because it ain't got nothing to do with them. Take it to Jesus, take it to Allah, take it to Buddha, take it to Krishna, take it to the lady in the motherfucking lake, take it to a goddamn therapist, but keep it from around them children. Period.
Well, thank you for that, Kawana. I completely and utterly agree with you on all of those fronts. And I'm going to close with just saying that stop letting people make you believe that you can't be your kid's friend and still be their parent, because you can. And that it doesn't mean that being their friend and having rapport and being able to have a open communication with your child, that you're giving them the reins to disrespect you, to run free and do whatever, that you don't they don't have any respect for you, that you are saying that they don't need to have any respect for you, because they will have more respect for you, honestly, if you respect them and understand that they are human. Your children are human beings. They are worrying and they are up against a lot. They're worrying and they're fighting battles that they're not telling you about. And when they're fighting them by themselves, you're leaving them more vulnerable and susceptible to succumb to whatever battles that they're following. Black children have been at the top of suicides, and that's not for no reason. So it really is life threatening. It really is life dependent. So I'm going to leave it at that. I thank all of you for watching us. I hope to see you guys next Wednesday. Stay tuned on our next week's topic. And I want you all to stay safe. Follow us on Facebook. Instagram now is up and running, y'all. So also look us up on Instagram and on Twitter. Yay. And again, if you guys are interested in being a part of our conversations, please feel free to inbox me. I love you all. Stay safe. See you next time, y'all. Good night, everybody.
Hello.
Take care.